Hey everyone, welcome back for another fun-filled episode. Well, this will be fun for me. Hopefully, others get to enjoy this video as well. So today is what's today? Today's Wednesday, the 20th of April. So I'm not sure I'm gonna upload this video today, but at least we'll be able to talk about some of the new figures that came in. And so this is going to be another Random Treasures video. Now I know I just did a my favorite, random treasure, exclusive, least favorite to most favorite a couple weeks ago, and so far that video is just absolutely tearing it up. When you compare it to other videos that I have, I mean, in the short period of time, I think that easily has the most views, which I kind of expected it to really get as a lot of views compared to some of my other videos. So I can see now what's really gaining traction. I'm kind of surprised though. The My Favorite LJN tournament, the very last video, you would imagine a lot of people would be interested in who I selected, but oddly enough, the very final video, the semifinals, finals, very few people have actually seen that video, which is kind of a shocker to me a little bit. So with Random Treasures, they come out with new figures about every month or so, every month and a half, 2 months. Sometimes they come out with dual sets, so I just kind of got to resituate myself here. And so I'm not gonna make a new my favorite Random Treasures video every single time I acquire a new figure, because you're probably talking about at least minimum one new video every month, and that's just not gonna happen. But what I'm thinking is maybe every 5 figures that I acquire, I can start, creating a video for that. Now, maybe when we get to about 40, no, 40 might be too small. I'm thinking once we get to about 60 figures, I think 60 is a good number, we can start breaking it down to tournament style, and I think that would be really fun to do. So I do have 5 new figures to add to this video that wasn't in the last one. So that's why I'm deciding to make the video now. I did have a Smash figure the first time around for whatever reason. Even though I kind of stared him in the eye when I was pulling the figures off the shelf, I didn't add them. I didn't pull them off the shelf and didn't add them to the part of my video the last time around. So I'm kind of looking at how I have them situated right now, and anyone that's seen the first video or goes back and watches it at a later time, you're going to notice some differences. And, that's okay, because obviously people's tastes, they change. I've noticed that when I rewatched my LJN tournament, Bad News Brown defeated Razor Ramon. And you would think, okay, well, Bad News Brown is a better figure, right? Then when I did the exclusive for Random Treasures, Bad News Brown was dead last at number 14, and then Razor Ramon was like number 12, so he wasn't even next in line. Well, I did change things up a little bit, so some figures are out of place compared to where they would have been previously. And without further ado, let's get started. Now, I do mention that Ram Treasures, they do come out with tag teams every now and then. And especially when you get into like the early 80s, anything, pre-85, obviously, before I was born. So a lot of these figures, a lot of these characters, I'm not very familiar with. But, I try to do research, watch some videos of them, their styles and whatnot. So far, from what I'm seeing, not too enthusiastic about the characters themselves. But it's nice that, I get to use one of my, David Garland stands off of Etsy. I mentioned his site a million times. 4 Left 3D Creations on Etsy. Awesome LJN stands. And so I mention that because I finally get to throw Lou Albano onto a 3-piece set with the Wild Samoans. So coming in at number 19 is going to be Afa. Oh, actually, let me switch that up a little bit. I think I like Afa a little bit better. So number 19 will be Sika. And some of these new figures, I mean, I'll talk to them for a few minutes, but I don't think I'll be going too in depth for a lot of these figures since we just did a video very recently. Now, the Sika, again, I don't have a lot of knowledge regarding Wild Samoans. everything that I've done research-wise, these guys were multiple-time champions, NWA and then into the WWF. He actually retired early 1990s. So again, around the time, late 80s, early 90s when I started watching wrestling, he either would have been gone or wouldn't have been a very dominant, figurehead as far as wrestlers that I watched. And I don't exactly remember this guy at all. Wild Samoans, I think the name might sound familiar to me, but I don't have a lot of knowledge as far as be able to talk these guys up. But, I mean, these videos, they're more about being able to reflect on the new figures more than anything. Anybody can always look up a backstory. Sika, the only reason I chose him as dead last, again, it all comes down to the body pose. And that's what it all boils down for me for the most part. Just kind of like, you get some figures, you just start kind of like, bouncing on, but kind of start bouncing on guys just to get, just get a, like, just act a fool for a couple seconds. I mean, not a big deal. And I couldn't imagine that this would play really well. Outstanding figure. I mean, that is just incredible work. I absolutely love it. And of course, I mentioned every time I get new figures, I always throw these little custom belts on. Generally, when I get a figure like this, King Kong Bundy, Sid Vicious, basically the figures that are all black or mostly black, I throw a white title belt on them. This time I tried to switch it up, try to go with a belt that's not very common, so I selected the red belt, and I believe this one was copper. So again, normally I get red belts for gold, like the Legion of Doom, but, I try to switch things up a little bit every now and then. And you know what? This could actually be bronze. You know what? I think that's bronze because I think I got copper for the Bushwhackers. I don't know. I have to look it back up. The bronze and copper kind of look the same to me. But Sika, number 19. And again, that leads Afa, number 18. I don't know. He's just kind of... he reminds me of Machete. Danny Trejo. Brilliant actor, and I think I like this figure just for that look alone. So, Afa, I do remember him a little bit more, only for the simple fact that he was the manager of the Head Shrinkers. And, you'd watch like Royal Rumbles or what have you. And, every time he'd grab the guys by the back of the head, kind of toss them into the ring. I'm like, how are you brutalizing your own wrestlers before they even enter the competition? So, I like these Wild Samoans. Again, add Lou Albano to the mix, and you've got yourself a nice little three-piece for the stands. They're going to look really beautiful. Again, Afa coming in number 18. And before we move on, I will do a quick spin here. All right, awesome. And like I said before, I did move things around, so they won't be in the exact same order as previously. And again, I had a few extra pieces to add, so my last go around, I had Bad News Brown at the very bottom at number 14. This time, he moves forward 2 slots. Obviously, Wild Samoans coming in dead last. So at number 17 on this list of 19 figures, we do see Bad News Brown. And, it's actually a really good figure. I don't mind it. I don't like the fact that his arm is way up there. That kind of kills it. Ever since I got my Sid Vicious figure in, I've been wanting to, use that so badly. I just want to go back to being a 9-year-old again. And, and so I took about 5 minutes out. I mean, I'm not going to sit there like a little kid and play with these guys or anything, but I took about 5 minutes out, play with Sid Vicious, use Bad News Brown, and Sid Vicious just wailed on this guy. Like I said, in my favorite LJN tournament, he did defeat Razor Ramon when it came up, in the first round. So I did think enough of this guy to move him on to the second round. But, making these random treasure videos, I did push him back a little bit. And again, I like his face because he reminds me of my buddy Chip that I used to work for overseas, or work with, one of my colleagues. So, that's also pretty interesting. Number 17, Bad News Brown. And some of these figures, like I said, guys, if you want further commentary, I highly recommend going back and watching the first video. Some of these, because I've talked about them so already, you know, I don't feel like I can really add much to it that hasn't already been said previously. But ever since I got these additional figures and I could add 5 more figures to this video, I figured, you know, this would be a lot of fun to come down and make another one for you guys. You know, again, the random treasure videos seem to be doing really well, so hopefully keeps this trend going. Number 16 is Bob Backlund. So when I did my last video, Bob Backlund, I had just acquired him and immediately put him towards the bottom of my list of you know, favorite figures. And again, it's not a bad figure at all. When I remember Bob Backlund, he was always in red trunks, basically red everything. And, you know, when I first watched him, you know, he was just the new guy, kind of. I guess he had exited WWF for a number of years, came back. And, you know, they kept talking about the older Bob Backlund. I think it was like 42 or something. And, you know, spent like 40, 50 minutes in the Royal Rumble. And that's all they could harp on is, you know, how old he was and how long he's been in the competition. It's like, well, you're talking about a 42-year-old Bob Backlund, but, you know, at the same time, like, guys like Ric Flair, I mean, how old was he? He had to be older, if not around the same age as Bob Backlund, right? And, you know, Ric Flair was in that same Royal Rumble, I believe. And nobody really talked about that. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. So Bob Backlund, phenomenal wrestler in his day. I mean, even me being 6, 7, 8 years old, getting introduced to Bob Backlund for the first time, you know, then he went crazy and became Mr. Chicken Wing. But, you know, as a kid, it was terrifying watching him with that little crazy look on his face. You know, that chicken wing just looked like an absolutely brutal position to put someone in. So I think the chicken wing will be number 2. I think the sharpshooter is probably the most painful finishing move, I would say. Now, friends, siblings, you know, whenever we used to wrestle as kids, we used to put each other in sharpshooters, and yeah, that stuff is painful. And what this man did with the chicken wing, the look on his face, absolutely amazing. And then later on, he became a manager, and you know, that's what that face reminds me of. Not so much the young Bob Backlund, but the manager guy. So I do have Bob Backlund at number 16. Coming at number 15. Now, as I mentioned, I like this to be exclusive only to Random Treasures, meaning anything that was made by LJN. So, you know, you'll find, I don't know, Bam Bam Bigelow, you'll find Andre the Giant, you know, figures like that, Kamala, on their website. And, you know, they do a pretty reasonable price, a lot cheaper than the exclusive figures. So I don't include those figures on my list. However, if it's a repaint that's exclusive only to that particular, to Random Treasures, like the $1 Million Man, I've included it. And in this case, I'm doing the same thing with the referee. So LJN came out with both blue shirt and white shirt referees, but the pink shirt, to what I've seen, is exclusive only to Random Treasures. And so pink shirt referee comes in at number 15. And, you know, no different. Everything is identical to the original. And to be honest, I think this referee could have actually been a lot higher on my list. I mean, he's a referee. You're not going to use him as a wrestler, but I mean, he's got a good positioning for the most part, where if you wanted to wrestle this guy, you could. He's got that arm up, kind of like a Terry Funk, which, you know, I'm not a huge fan of that. I think Terry Funk could have been a better figure if he had, like, both arms were kind of like that. But again, not too much you can say about the referee. It's a generic referee. It's, you know, not. I don't think it's mimicked after any particular referee in particular. So again, great figure, and you know, number 15 out of 19 figures, you know, for referee, I think that's actually a pretty good standing. And the more Ram Treasures comes out with, again, these guys could always bounce up, down, middle. So great figure, love it, and I'm not sure if I'd quite ready to anoint this one better than the blue or white shirt referees, but I don't know. I think the pink really works for him. So, number 15, referee. At number 14, we've got Razor Ramon. This had a chance to be a really perfect figure. You know, again, I said it before, waist down, the color scheme and the design of this figure is phenomenal. He's got the little razors on the back of his trunks. There's the stencil on the front of his trunks, perfect. The hair is truly remarkable. As far as hairstyles, with not just Ram Chargers, but any of the figures that I have, this is probably somewhere in the top 5, I would argue, of the best hair sculpts of any of the figures. So, truly fantastic piece. And he walks in the ring, does that little, what do you call it, machismo, whatever he used to say. But again, it's kind of like a Tito Santana, which you guys all know. I absolutely hate that pose of that figure. It's horrible for play. And again, arms out, you would think it would be amazing for play, but it just doesn't work. And I mean, I haven't used this guy. I haven't tried wrestling with this guy at all, other than trying to, doing this little thing, but that's about it. So Razor Ramon has a shot to be a really perfect figure, but arm pose, fighting pose, just makes it, puts it that further down my list. Great figure though, absolutely fantastic. He comes in at number 14. I think he was number 12 out of 14 figures last time, so 14 out of 19. He just moved up a few spots. So 14, which means at numbers 13 and 12, you're getting the Bushwhackers. So first we get Butch at number 13, and I said last video I like the face of Luke a little bit better. That's why I put Butch higher. But I mean, as you can see, they're just complete mirrors of one another. So Butch, number 13. Gotta make sure I got the right numbers here. Number 13. And again, I can't really say more about this figure than I said previously. Beautiful design of the cargo pants. I love the way that both sides of the cargo kind of sticks out. If these were more reminiscent of the Hasbro Series 2 with the black shirt, that would have been really nice. But, I mean, great shirt. Works beautifully with the pants. Perfect figure. I love it. And, again, one of these figures, I never had the Bushwhackers as a kid. Of course, I always had, Hasbros. I didn't know anything about LJNs when I was young. And to think, as an adult, the Bushwhacker Hasbro figures are like some of my least favorite figures. They look phenomenal, but aesthetically, some of the best looking figures. But the fact that they didn't stand up makes them terrible. And again, I mentioned number 12, Luke. The reason being that face is phenomenal. Beautiful, beautiful look. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. I don't really pay attention on which one I select. So, I don't know which one is bronze and which one is copper. You know what? I think the copper is actually the brighter one, and then the bronze will be darker. So, I think I said that backwards earlier in the video. But, and again, I've been putting regular tag team LJN belts, brown with the silver on all the tag teams, but I mean, I don't want to keep doing that for every single tag team I get. I've done it for about half a dozen figures or half a dozen tag teams, and I just want to keep switching them up, getting, different belts, different colors, copper with gold, or excuse me, brown with gold, brown with silver, brown with copper, so forth, brown with bronze, or red with bronze, and so on. Just kind of mix the belts up, have a plethora of choices or selections. So we got Luke, great figure, number 12. Number 11, one of my least favorite figures ever is Kinghaku. And Haku in general is just a bad figure. Aesthetically looks great, but when I was doing the My Favorite LJN tournament, I may have mentioned once or twice that if this guy's arms were down like this would be such a beautiful figure. And among random treasures, they did both my Islander and my Kinghaku figures. Again, they're just going off of the same pose that LJN came up with. With this one, they just did a nice little repaint. Has the potential to be a phenomenal piece. Again, I think I prefer the Kinghaku colors to the Islander version, but that pose really kills it for me. So Kinghaku number 11, and I think I'm being quite generous with that figure. To be honest, I actually considered pushing this one further towards the bottom, like, I don't know, number 17 or 16 or something. I actually wanted the referee to rate higher than this version, but maybe the accessory kind of, kicked it up a notch for me or something. I don't know, but I decided to leave him towards the middle of the pack. Kinghaku comes in at number 11. So, moving up a couple spots. Well, more than a couple, because of the additional figures we've added. Last time he was number 12. No. He had to be number... That couldn't be right. And that's probably right still. He came in number 10 out of 14, and now he's number 10 out of 19. So, even with the additional figures, some bounced around. I do have Mr. Perfect at number 10. So, his hair, again, he's probably among the 5 figures that have the perfect hair design. And his dual-colored singlet. I really love that. And this actually is one of my favorite, even though I put him right now at number 10, this actually is one of the best figures that you're going to find from Random Treasures. And the only reason he gets put down so far down my list is because of the Scott Steiner Galoob style fighting pose, which, I had Scott Steiner Galoob as a kid. I made use out of it, but I'm not a huge fan of it. In fact, it's one of the worst in my opinion. So that's why this figure, it rates so low on my list. But again, he's a great piece. And, tastes change as you look at this video compared to my previous video. You'll see some figures move spots. Some figures that rated higher than others in last video might be lower in this video. It happens. Again, a lot of these ones I've already touched on. I'm not going to go too much in commentary about them. I'm just basically going to put them in order as how I see fit as at the current moment. So this was number 10, Mr. Perfect. Alright. 3, 6. Coming in at number 9 is the Sting figure. Again, these Galoob 2-up LJN style versions. When I saw the Ric Flair first, of course, it came out before the Sting figure and before the Sid Vicious figure. I don't know if I was really interested in getting the Ric Flair Galoob at the time. I thought it was great that they did that and everything, but I mean, to me, when I look at the figure, I just saw Galoob, and the same thing with this figure. And so it really wasn't doing too much for me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get them, but it's Random Treasures, and from what I'm understanding, is Random Treasures is a small business. They've given me awesome service. Communication is incredible. Fast turnaround, amazing products. If I could help a small business out by purchasing a few extra items, you know what, I'm going to do it. And again, Wild Samoans, I really don't know who they are. I didn't have any interest in Wild Samoans or anything like that. But again, I pretty much stated, when it comes to Random Treasures, I'm not even waiting anymore. The second something new comes out, I'm on it. I'm going to support them the best I can because they've given me great support in return. Number 9, Sting. Again, almost identical to the original Galoob version. I think the facepaint might be slightly off, but I mean, I should have brought the glue figure over here for reference, but I didn't do it. But oh well. Great figure. Again, don't like the hands up poses, but nonetheless, awesome for display. Coming in at number 8. So last go around, the $1 Million Man came in at number 6. Again, out of 14 figures. So, dropping to number 8 this time doesn't mean he actually lost any room. In fact, based on the additions of the 3 additional figures, the 3 additional figures, he actually gained a spot. So 8 out of 9, number 19, puts him right smack towards the middle of the pack. An elite figure. I love it. Again, the only difference about some of these figures, when you actually look at them, you do see kind of like a cartoon look to it. So I'm not a huge fan of like some of the rubber designs, but I mean, it's a great figure. I mean, who am I to complain? I couldn't do something this amazing. And, again, I like the white jacket, one from Ram Treasures, or excuse me, from Wrestling Rider a little bit better. He's got that white jacket with the gold money sign, but the second figure I ever bought from Random Treasures, and again, it's one of my favorites. Love it. Number 8 is the $1 Million Man. Coming at number 7 this time around is Ric Flair. This was the first 2-up from Random Treasures. Again, I don't know if they're actually called 2-up or not. Oh, excuse me, got to readjust myself. But one of the guys I started buying some of my, Hasbro accessories from in the UK. He sends me photos of, guys like this. Maybe not Ric Flair, but, Hulk Hogan, for example. And he shows me like little 2-ups, what the Hasbros look like and what the LJN style version of them would look like. But I don't think they're actually rubber like LJNs. I think they're actually, plastic like actual Hasbro figures. So for the longest time, Ric Flair was probably like my second favorite Galoob figure. He might have actually him and Rick Steiner may have gone back to back. It could have been Steiner's 2 and Ric Flair 3, or vice versa. I don't remember, and it's just because there weren't too many Galoob figures, and fighting pose wise, this was actually one of the better ones. But I was never crazy about the Ric Flair figure, and that's another reason why I kind of didn't want to get this one at the time. But when I finally decided to break down, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I want it or not. If Ram Treasures has it, I'm going to acquire it. Give my business to a great store, and I'm glad I did. I mean, how could you possibly pass on a phenomenal figure like this? This is a great piece. And I love the fact that I put on this little gold and black championship belt for him. Man, that's 1, 16, 20, 24, however many championships he's held in his life. I think he has to be right up there with Hogan with the black and gold. So that was number 7. Coming in at number 6 is going to be Hawk. Again, phenomenal figure. The Legion of Doom figures are easily a couple of the best, if not the best, Ram Treasure figures. Because of my obsession with fighting poses, they rate a little bit lower on my list. But again, if you were to take the pose out of it, Hawk or Animal and Hawk, easy 1 and 2. And again, with red belts and the gold, that really meshes well with the Legion of Doom figures. So, Hawk, number 6. I'm sad to see this one drop, but he didn't really drop, not with the additional figures. But I don't have him in my top 3 anymore, which, sucks. But it is Brother Love at number 5. And when I did my last video, 14 figures, I thought Brother Love was going to come in at number 14. I thought he was going to be my least favorite. But, as I looked at the figures over, did a little quick glance of, positioning, arm poses, designs, and I just realized how much I absolutely love this velvet cake look. velvet cake looking manager. Oh god, great piece. Again, I'm not gonna spend too much time on the figures I've already touched on, especially given the fact that we're at 30 minutes already. I do apologize about that, guys. I was hoping to try and rush through this and get it done in 25, 30 minutes, but it looks like it's gonna take closer to 40. Hope you guys don't mind. So, Brother Love at number 5, which leaves Animal at number 4. And he could have actually been pushed up a spot or two, but we're going to keep these bottom figures pretty much intact compared to the last video. And again, very simple. His face paint is just truly remarkable. Easily one of the best looking face paint you'll see on any character. Ultimate Warrior, Sting, they had my favorite face paints too. But I mean, that right there, I mean, just the color is fantastic. The way that he gets that spider kind of, not just in the middle of his forehead, but the colors are actually designed in the way of a spider. And you can actually see the little spider legs off on the side of his cheeks there. That is truly remarkable. And again, just like Hawk, perfect figure, phenomenal. And the only reason that keeps these figures are out of the number 1 and 2 spots are simply because of arm positioning. So we have Hannibal at number 4. A figure I did have, but for whatever reason I did not pull off the shelf last time, was Smash. Now, I do have the Random Treasures version of Axe with the red, excuse me, it was, so he's got a gray face with red eyeshadow or whatnot. Now, even though I have that figure, I didn't purchase it from Random Treasures, so I don't know the score, meaning that I don't know if somebody bought that from Random Treasures and tried selling it on eBay. I don't know if they saw Random Treasures version and then they painted it themselves to make it look similar. But I'm thinking the latter, because unlike this figure, you can see the color scheme compared to an original LJN. No, that's not an original. Nothing that's within reach. But the original LJN is darker, and the Axe with the gray face and the red paint around the eyes, his skin tone is a lot darker than this one. So that tells me that somebody took an original red face and did a recolor to look like the Ram Treasures version. So that's what, and because I didn't purchase it from Ram Treasures, I didn't include Axe on this list. But Smash, he obviously would, either way, I think Smash would have moved up ahead of him. Same fighting pose and everything. The jacket is truly remarkable. And I don't think it's just the face paint. I think it's just the design of the jacket itself, the vest, that actually really puts it over the top. So I don't know if this little blue, what that's all about. So I've gone back and I've rewatched a lot of old Demolition matches and stuff. I never really noticed that before, so I don't know if that's a special design by Ram Treasures or not. But I mean, it doesn't really detract from the figure or anything, so it's still a beauty. And I put in my notes or in the comments section when I did the last video that had I actually included this one, he would have come in at number 3. So everyone from number 3, Brother Love, and all the way down would have moved back a spot. But we have Demolition Smash coming in as my 3rd favorite Random Treasures figure. So the last time we did this video, Barbarian won, coming in at number 1 out of 14 figures. Of course, number 2 this time. So looking at this figure, I actually was considering bumping this guy down some spots. And I'm not talking bumping him down from 2 to 3. I'm talking possibly bumping him down from like 2 to like 7 or 8 or something. Not because I hate the figure. I mean, I love the figure, obviously. Everything about this figure is amazing. perfect fighting pose, which is why he won the last time I did this video. But I mean, I just like, when you look at like Smash, when you look at Animal, you look at the colors and the detail. As phenomenal as that figure is, I'm starting to gravitate more towards those figures as being a little bit better. But again, none of the figures that I've discussed so far can even come close to matching this fighting pose. As far as Random Treasures goes, this is the premier figure fighting pose wise for now. And Barbarian number 2. And I kind of spoiled it last video because I said if I had this figure, or when I got this figure, he was going to end up at number 1. So anyone that watched that video already knows this answer. I've been talking about this figure for weeks prior to him being distributed. And, you know, I've already mentioned this Galoob figure previously as being my all-time favorite figure. Coming at number 1 is Sid Vicious. So, again, the LJN Big John stud. I think Big John Stud came down as my all-time favorite LJN because he had a fighting pose very similar to that of Sid Vicious. Galoob did not do a lot of good things pose-wise with their figures, but they made the most perfect wrestling figure of all time when they created Sid Vicious. So they did some things well. And when they came out, when Random Treasures came out with the Ric Flair 2-up figure, I kept asking about the Sid Vicious repetitiously like crazy. I wanted this guy, and when he was, and I checked their sites religiously on a daily basis. So when I finally saw it pop up, you best believe I was one of those first guys to acquire this figure. Absolutely love it. Now, here's the thing. Because Sid Vicious Galoob is my favorite figure, we know this. And of course, right now, Sid Vicious as an LJN is my favorite Random Treasures figure. Now, it could be 6 months down the road. It could be 6 years down the road. Whenever. At some point in my life, I would like to do another, another tournament, LJN tournament, my favorite LJN tournament. Now, I could either do it like I did before, where all customs, rubbers, resin, and all the LJN originals, come in, go up against each other. But knowing that this is my favorite figure, would there even be a point to doing that? Because, let's say, I don't know, who was it? So Bruiser Brody won my competition. Now let's say it wasn't Bruiser, it was Bruiser Brody and Sid Vicious instead of the Ultimate Warrior in my semifinals, where I had custom against custom, original against original, and then it was Sid Vicious versus Big John Stud in the final round. I mean, just right now, if I had to give an answer, I would say that Sid Vicious would have won the entire competition. I think he would have beaten Bruiser Brody even. And again, it's just a very simple figure. Just, not too flashy as far as coloring, just one main color scheme. That pose, I mean, this makes such a phenomenal fighting pose that I am just obsessed with this particular figure. I always had Galoobs and I always had Hasbros as a kid. And I mentioned it before in my videos. I didn't know who any of those manufacturers were. I knew the figures, but I didn't know who made them or anything like that. It wasn't until, just recently when I started recollecting this stuff that, I finally learned about the different manufacturers and who made what. But right now, guys, that is the top 19 of my list of current Random Treasure exclusives. So again, I'm thinking every 5 new figures I get in, I'll do this competition over again. And 40 is too small. I think 50 is too small. So I'm thinking maybe around 60 figures. We could start doing an actual, tournament one-on-one battles. 5 matchups per video. And again, does it really make sense to do that? Knowing who's gonna win the whole thing? Probably not. But I think it would still make a fun video, a fun watch. And I know for me, it'll definitely be fun making it. Even if we know the final outcome, just to see how we get there, I think it's pretty awesome. I mean, being a Cubs fan and everything, I know the Cubs won the 2016 World Series, but you best believe I absolutely love watching Mike Montgomery throw that last pitch, watching that ground ball. I love watching Chris Bryant scoop it and dish it out to Rizzo for the game ender. So, there are just to see how it all plays out at the end, I think that's pretty awesome. Well, guys, we did surpass the 40-minute mark. Ugh. For those of you that stayed with me and watched the whole video, thank you so much for your support, guys. I really do appreciate you all. I think the next video I'd like to make is probably going to be the Tales from the Crypt. Right now I've got 7 of the 8 figures carded, so the last one should be in the next couple days or so. So I will make that as soon as it comes in, and I will get these videos posted over the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Alright, thanks everyone. I'll talk to y'all soon.